I'm Lindsay. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, or Garden Zone 9B. I've been gardening for a year and a half here in Arizona and have learned tons about how to keep plants alive and thriving in the desert. Our garden consists of a total of 11 raised beds and a greenhouse. 8 of those beds are behind me in our enclosure garden that my husband and I have built and designed together. And in our backyard, we have the remaining 3 beds and a greenhouse. As a wife and a mom of 3 children under 5 years old, I have to keep things very simple. So for our soil mixture, I use just 50% garden soil and 50% mushroom compost. As far as pest control, we really focus on an organic garden. So our first level of defense is combination planting. So you'll see tons of plants that grow well together. We have a lot of basil throughout, marigolds, things that naturally keep pests away. Our second level of defense is we have a sprayer that we use dish soap and water. So that usually does what it needs as far as any pests. If things get really bad, the third level of defense and last level is adding neem oil to our soap and water mixture. Watering is probably the most important thing to learn in the desert. The first year that we gardened here in the desert, we were doing everything by hand. It was exhausting and unsustainable. So since we have put in irrigation, so we just bought an irrigation system, irrigation line, drip line, connections, and valves so we could turn beds on and off depending on if we don't have anything growing at the time. We like to save the water. So we put this system together and we run it currently right now. It's in the heat of the summer, about 106 average to 110 every day. So we're running it about 50 minutes a day. And we do use a moisture meter to titrate or adjust as needed. Our enclosure garden is 25 feet on 2 sides, giving us 50 feet of garden space. All the raised beds in our enclosure garden are 22 inches high, which is great for ergonomics and deep root systems for the plants. So it's no wonder that our plants in the enclosure garden always do significantly better than many of the other plants. It's also south-facing, so it does get about 9 to 10 hours of sun during our sunniest summer season. So it allows for really great summer plants to thrive. As far as our backyard garden, it's already been transitioned into a fall garden, so there's not a whole lot of growth right now. Also in our greenhouse, we have nothing planted there today, and that's simply because it's too hot. So when it's 110 degrees out or 107, it's always 10 to 15 degrees hotter in the greenhouse, which is unsustainable for the plants, and it's unsustainable for me to manage anything in the greenhouse. We do use the greenhouse for starting our seedlings in February so we can prolong our summer growing season. And that really helps just so that we start them in February, and then by April, May, when we're transplanting, we're getting harvests by late June, early July. So it just prolongs our growing season. Shade is probably one of the most important things in desert gardening. So last year when we started, we were using shade cloths. It was exhausting. Every day at 1:45 in the afternoon, my husband and I are racing out there, sweating, getting sunburnt, just trying to cover our plants. So instead we decided, let's plant a ton of sunflowers between all of our plants until they're mature and they can provide the shade. Well, it has worked fabulously. Not only is it really good for providing shade to its neighboring plants, but they also bring tons of bees, our pollinators, and we have had tons of fruits all summer long and vegetables, and it's been a game changer. So some of the best things to grow in an Arizona summer are okra, melons, peppers, and eggplants. You'll see in my garden I have a ton of different varieties of all those things, and they do really, really well. It's almost like the hotter it gets, the better that they do. In the garden community, I see all summer long beautiful tomatoes and all these things that I would love to grow here during the summer. They just don't do well in an Arizona summer. So being in this gardening zone, we really have to focus on what grows well here. One of my favorite and prolific plants all summer has been our melon plants. We have 2 different watermelon plants, one on either side of our enclosure garden, and one of the plants alone has already grown across the entire enclosure garden, spanning 25 feet. Since we're limited with space, we do have a lot of different trellises, so our entire garden enclosure has garden wire across all sides, bamboo trellises, and metal trellises. I started the garden as a hobby for myself. I wanted something that I could enjoy, something that I could learn and grow, and really it's become a lifestyle for my family. And there has been no greater joy for me than watching my kids in the garden, teaching them the fruits of labor, and really just doing something together as a family. Thank you for coming to tour through my desert garden.